No one remembered the exact moment humanity went silent. There was no grand farewell. No final transmission. No dramatic last stand broadcast across the stars. One day, Earth was there, loud, chaotic, unpredictable. The next, it wasn't. At first, the Galactic Alliance assumed it was a communications failure. Humans had always been erratic, after all. Their networks were messy, decentralized, inefficient by most interstellar standards. But then came the reports. Human colonies, gone dark. Outposts, abandoned. Trade routes, empty. Ships that once bustled with activity drifted cold and lifeless in space, their reactors offline, their systems wiped clean. No signs of battle. No debris. No distress signals. Just silence. The galaxy watched, uneasy. For decades, humans had been an anomaly, too emotional, too reckless, too adaptable. They weren't the strongest species, nor the most advanced, but they had something others didn't, unpredictability. They had ended conflicts no one else could. Survived environments no one else dared enter. Won wars they should have lost. And then they vanished. At the Galactic Council, theories spread like infection. Extinction event, one species suggested. A biological collapse. A failed experiment. Others disagreed. No species disappears this cleanly. Some believed humans had destroyed themselves. It fit their reputation, volatile, aggressive, dangerously curious. But others feared something worse. What if they didn't die? One delegate whispered. What if they left? A century passed. Slowly, the galaxy moved on. Human systems were reclaimed. Their territories divided. Their history reduced to a cautionary tale told to young civilizations. Do not be like the humans. Their name became synonymous with failure. And yet, some systems remained untouched. Entire regions of space, once heavily populated by humans, were quietly avoided. Ships that entered those zones reported strange readings. Distortions. Signals that shouldn't exist. Most never returned. Those who did spoke of something unsettling. They're not empty. No one listened. Because it had been 100 years. And humanity was gone. Until the signal arrived at IT began as a whisper. A faint transmission detected on the edge of Alliance space. At first, it was dismissed, background noise, cosmic interference. But then it repeated. Again. And again. Every cycle, stronger than before. The message was simple. No encryption. No distortion. Just a single line, broadcast across every known frequency. We are returning. Panic spread instantly. The Galactic Council convened in emergency session. Impossible, one delegate said. They're extinct. No species survives a century in isolation without contact. Then explain the signal, another snapped. Silence followed. Because no one could. Exploration fleets were dispatched to the origin point, a long-abandoned human sector near the edge of known space. What they found changed everything. The stars themselves seemed wrong. Ships entering the system reported gravitational anomalies. Sensors malfunctioned. Navigation systems failed. It was as if space itself had been altered. And then they saw it. At first, it looked like a distortion, a ripple in the void. But as they approached, the shape became clear. A structure. No. A fleet. It stretched across the darkness like a living thing. Ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They weren't sleek or elegant like standard Alliance vessels. They weren't massive and rigid like war cruisers. They were evolving. Surfaces shifting. Hulls reconfiguring. Energy pulsing like a heartbeat. Thousands of them. No, millions. And at the center, something far worse. A ship so vast it blocked out entire stars. The exploration fleet tried to retreat. They didn't make it far. Because the moment they turned, the fleet moved. It didn't accelerate. It didn't fire weapons. It simply appeared closer. Space folded. Distance collapsed. And within seconds, the human fleet stood directly before them. A new transmission came through. Clear. Calm. Terrifying. You expanded into our absence. A pause. We will now correct that. Then the fleet advanced. The Galactic Alliance mobilized everything. Every fleet. Every defense system. Every weapon ever created. They had faced threats before, rogue empires, cosmic entities, even reality fractures. But nothing like this. The human fleet didn't attack like a conventional force. They didn't form battle lines. They didn't engage strategically. They simply moved. And wherever they went, systems fell. Entire armadas fired upon them. Energy beams capable of splitting planets struck the human ships. And disappeared. Absorbed. Redirected. Evolved against. That was the worst part. The fleet learned. Instantly. Every weapon used against them became useless seconds later. Every strategy was countered before it could even be completed. A defensive line of 10,000 ships stood at the border of Alliance space. The largest military formation in galactic history. They didn't last 5 minutes. Not because they were destroyed, but because their systems stopped. Ships powered down mid-battle. Weapons shut off. Engines died. Crew members reported the same final message before their systems went dark. Outdated. Then the humans passed through them like ghosts. Panic consumed the galaxy. Worlds were evacuated. Civilizations fled. Entire species abandoned their home systems. But it didn't matter. Because the human fleet wasn't chasing them. It was heading somewhere specific. Earth. When the fleet reached Earth, the truth was revealed. The planet was no longer the one the galaxy remembered. It wasn't blue. It wasn't green. It wasn't even natural. Earth had become something else entirely. A construct. A machine. A living system. The oceans glowed with energy. The continents shifted like mechanical plates. The atmosphere shimmered with controlled storms. Humanity hadn't gone extinct. They had evolved. A transmission was broadcast across the galaxy. Not just words. Memories. Images. Understanding. The galaxy saw what had happened. After centuries of war, instability, and external threats, humanity had reached a conclusion. Survival required change. Not adaptation. Transformation. They turned inward. Shut down all external contact. And began rewriting themselves. Biology merged with machine. Consciousness expanded beyond physical limits. They abandoned individuality, not entirely, but enough to become unified. A species became a system. A civilization became a single, coordinated intelligence. Time no longer constrained them. Space no longer limited them. They didn't build ships. They became them. And now, they were back, the Galactic Council prepared for annihilation. There was no hope left. No weapon strong enough. No strategy advanced enough. The human fleet had already proven that. But instead of attacking the core worlds, they stopped. A final message spread across every system. Every screen. Every device. Every mind. We did not return for war. Silence followed. The galaxy waited. We returned because you expanded without understanding consequence. Images flooded every civilization's consciousness. Worlds stripped of resources. Ecosystems destroyed. Entire species erased for expansion. We left to prevent ourselves from becoming you. The message shifted. Now, it showed Earth before the silence. War. Conflict. Division. Then the transformation. Unity. Evolution. Control. We succeeded. A pause. Then the final words. Now you must choose. Across the galaxy, systems began to change. Not by force, but by presence. Planets stabilized. Energy became abundant. Conflicts ceased. Not because they were stopped, but because they no longer made sense. Humanity didn't conquer the galaxy. They redefined it. And for the first time in history, the stars were quiet. Not with fear, but with understanding. Because the humans had returned. And they were no longer something the galaxy could fight. They were something it had to become.